by luck. The film premiered just before the 50th anniversary of Gideon versus Wainwright. And so it was a great, confluence of events, and we got a lot of good news press about the fact that there was a film. But there's also something about seeing someone's experience that I think really enriches your understanding. So a lot of articles were written, but having the film, I really think, did contribute to the public discourse. The biggest reaction I get from people who are not lawyers is they're just appalled. And they just say, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know how hard it was. And I feel like I can see that moment when there's just a little bit of room for some more information, for some other data points to enter their lives. And this film does not cover everything about indigent defense. It's very small. But I hope what it does is create a wedge, create an opening. So the next time they see somebody's mugshot or read about something, they think, wait a minute, maybe there's another side. I started on my speeches asking people who haven't seen the film, how many people's lives could you represent at once? People say 2 or 5. And when you think about it, that's a lot of work to do. You have to investigate, you have to deal with their families, you can see how that would seem. So then when I say they have 100 plus or 500 in Miami, plus misdemeanor cases, I think people, because sometimes really big numbers, they're so big that they're not meaningful. You have to have a comparison. So if I said you have to walk 10 miles, but like if what a half a mile feels like, you're like, whoa, 10 miles is really, but you have to have something to compare it to, and most people don't. So I try and give people, a sense of like, how many things do you do at work every day? How many different projects? Are you working on 150 different projects where you have to start, you have to get up to speed, and where, there's a license, and somebody could go to prison if you don't do a good job. I mean, it's a lot of pressure. So I think people understand that, and they think that that's not good for our justice system. So if anything the film has done, I think it's started to help that conversation along. And then for public defenders, I was a little worried. Public defenders can be a really tough audience. They do a hard job. They're kind of anti-authority often. But from many people I have heard they want to show the film to their parents, that they haven't been able to explain to people why they do their jobs, and that the film helps them say why they do. There has never been a better time for something concrete and real to happen. The Attorney General, Eric Holder, made introductory remarks for the film at Silver Docs this year. I guess it's AFI Docs now. Then about 3 or 4 weeks later, he announced a major policy shift that the federal government he was directing prosecutors not to pursue low-level drug crimes as felonies, which is a major, so I'm taking all the credit for that. But I think with that announcement, what the federal government's pronouncement on drug crimes and how they should be treated is a guide, is a signal to the states. So that's a major shift. The recent New York State finding that stop and frisk as applied, just stopping young men of color, is unconstitutional. That's a really good policy decision. And then the fact that so many states cannot afford to wholesale incarcerate people for low-level drug crimes. So I think that there's an economic push, and there's a bit of a social justice push. And so there's a really great opportunity now for people who've been doing this work for a long time to come in, close the deal, like really make some reform efforts. So I'm pretty encouraged. I tend to be an optimistic person.